Welcome again to Your Next Episode, the podcast that chats to relevant, interesting people entering their 40s, 50s and beyond. I'm Louise.
And I'm Amy.
And today we're joined by Suzi Grant, also known as Alternative Ageing on Instagram. Suzi's had a career in TV and radio. She's the author of 4 books, a qualified nutritionist, and now a huge online influencer on Instagram and YouTube. And she's 70. I'll tell you right now, if you're 40 plus and dreading ageing, this is the episode that's going to put your mind at rest. Hello, Suzi.
Hello, my lovely.
Hello. So you're a blogger, you're a photographer, you're a YouTuber. Basically, you do all the things that you'd expect an online influencer to do, and you're 70. And I've given a lot of thought to what it is that's so appealing about you, why I follow you at age 50, and also the fact that, and correct me if I've got the figures wrong, but I understand you've got 27,500 followers on Instagram, but half of those are aged under 35,
Yep.
And you're 70. So what do you think is your appeal to all of your followers, young and old?
That's a really good question. It's now actually over 28,000,
Wow.
climbing fast. But yes, half my followers, you're absolutely right, are under 35. And they say, this will give you a clue, they like my style. And the fact 70, even to me, doesn't it sound old? And that, I mean, through my 60s, I was fine, but 70 suddenly sounds old. And I'm constantly called Instagran.
Oh, that's no, you're not happy with that.
I know, and I'm not even a granny.
No.
I was recently described in a brief as whoever gets this job is representing an old woman.
Oh.
And I was also described as elderly. So one of my missions is to stop this nonsense straight away, because we don't go around. It's not acceptable to call people under 35 snowflakes or whatever the tags are, big. Let's just stop with it. It's driving me mad. We've got sort of got rid of sexism, and I thought we'd got rid of ageism. But the problem is the people writing these links are about 10.
Yeah.
Of course, anyone over 40 is ancient to them.
Of course.
So I think what the youngsters love, and people of all ages, is that I'm representing what is considered a much older age group, and the youngsters write things like, I want to be like you when I grow up. You're really helping me not dread getting to 40. So that's the sort of message I seem to be spreading very successfully. I refuse to be irrelevant. I know what music is going on. I can watch the Brit Awards and know half of the band.
Really? Which is more than I could do, and I'm 42. I was like, the only person I recognised was Rod Stewart.
I don't believe it. But yes, I mean, nobody calls any of the Rolling Stones elderly. It's outrageous.
No, it is.
So that's my present mission, to keep spreading the word. You can look good and feel great at any bloody age at all.
So, and because that's the point, is you're not trying to look younger, are you? It's about looking and feeling the best that you can. And that is actually within everybody's potential, isn't it? So,
Absolutely agree. And I'm very, very into upcycling, vintage, recycling. So I'm not into fashion, and I'm certainly not into fast fashion. It's all about style. How good can I make myself appear as I walk out of the door? How are people going to engage with me more? I think the most important thing is to smile, for starters.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah. And the world is completely different when you smile. And because I've now got this trademark of, I can never have contact lenses, because I've got a trademark vintage frame glasses always, and a headscarf and bright lipstick. I make a little effort, but not a lot. And no, I won't go near anything unnatural when it comes to my skin and aging. I am aging, I hope, gracefully.
Yeah.
I do have facials. I do look after my skin big time. I do all the stuff that we know we should do, which is why I'm still healthy, fit, slim, and not on any prescription drugs at my great age, because I've always followed a healthy diet because of my mother's genetics. She was Bulgarian, so I was brought up on the Mediterranean diet in the 50s. And being a nutritionist, training as a nutritionist, I don't practice anymore, really helped. So, and I keep fit and I keep engaged and I keep dancing.
Yeah.
So I think that's all very important for any age.
So you're keeping fit. So obviously food, exercise. What exercises do you do? Do you go running?
No.
No, low impact, darling, low impact.
Yes.
No, that's very...
Pilates, yoga, anything.
Pilates.
Yes.
I love Pilates. I do the Tibetan 5 rites every single morning. And that's good for weight bearing. I do Pilates, which is also good for weight bearing. And I also I try and walk a minimum of 10,000 steps a day.
Right.
And having a doggy helps.
Yeah.
But I am that person who gets off a stop, one early so that I can get a bit of extra walking in, or park the car further than I need to so that I get a bit of extra walking in. So,
Suzi, have you always been like that? Were you like that in your 30s and 40s, or is this something that are you naturally a glass half full optimistic person?
Yes, absolutely. I retrained as a journalist in my early 30s. And the guy who ran the course, I did a radio journalism course, hence the rest of my career in radio and TV. And he actually told me after the course that I was the one he least thought would succeed. And I was the only one who succeeded because it never occurred to me that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it's not arrogance. It's just being very positive and without being too new and out there. I really do believe in what you put out, you get back.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that thing you said about smiling, I just find if you step out of your front door in the morning with a face like a slapped arse, like you've been sucking a lemon, then that's the way your day is going to go, isn't it? Whereas if you've got a smile on your face, it's infectious.
It's totally infectious. People treat you so much better. I mean, I go into, I can't mention brand names. Oh, can I Pret? I mean, we all go to Pret.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it's my favourite coffee. And because I'm always smiling and happy, I so often get free coffees. And I don't do it on purpose. That's me. I've always been like that. And there are so many women my age who do walk around with an expression like a slapped arse. I mean, their face like a slapped arse. You're absolutely right. And answer the phone like that.
Yeah.
Hello. And you think, well, no wonder you're not having a very happy life. You're not putting it out.
Yeah, I do. My nana, bless her, that's my paternal grandmother who is no longer with us now, but her life did just shrink because... just because of that sort of woe is me, negative attitude, everything's changing. It's not like the good old days like it used to be. And that I just saw that deterioration. But actually, you are an example of just living a positive life.
Well, I'm absolutely so grateful every morning that I wake up and I'm still in good health.
Yeah, so it's a privilege.
I'm grateful that I've lived such a long and wonderful life. And, I've got a neighbour who's 86 and she used to be a teacher. She's still, I actually had to tell a paramedic off one day when she had a little bit of a problem because he was treating her like a moron and shouting at her because he assumed she was deaf because she's elderly, dare I use that tag. Her brain is as bright as a button because she goes to the theatre. Even if she needs help and has to get cabs everywhere, she's engaged with the outside world. She listens to the radio. She's got, Alexa. She's got everything that you need to stay up to date. She draws the line at the mobile phone because she's a bit blind. But she constantly goes to concerts and the theatre and gardening groups and has a very full life. And we should all be hoping that we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you were saying about like our culture and our society. We don't seem to sort of value the wisdom of people who've got into those later decades, do we? We, like you say about the paramedic kind of almost infantilizing older people, assuming that they need help. But actually, it's a cultural mind shift that needs to happen, isn't it?
It is, and you're right. It is particularly, not everyone, not my Instagram followers, obviously, but it seems to be particularly amongst very young men, dare I say it, and a few young women. They just assume if you're a certain age that they're very patronizing.
Yeah.
I still go to festivals and people will come up to me and go, "Oh, good for you, you're at a festival."
Do you
And
say fuck off?
well, I actually do. I say, fuck off. We invented them.
Yeah.
Long before you were even thought of. We were into sex, drugs and rock and roll. So fuck off. Yeah, that's right. I won't stand for it. I will not be put in a little box.
Good for
and
you.
I think that's why my Instagram and everything else is doing so well, because people realise there is an alternative to aging. This is why I call it alternative aging. There is an alternative. You can be, you don't have to be invisible. You can still be relevant. It's keeping my brain, most importantly, is the brain, keeping that active. And I have to say, and it's well documented, that by my mid-50s, I was forgetting words in the middle of sentences, like we all do.
Yeah.
It happens even younger if you're tired. Or you've got babies or kids. I mean, it's something that we all suffer from. And once I started blogging, age 64, I was still writing, obviously, but I hadn't used my brain properly because I did retire at 60. And at 64, I started blogging. I obviously had to learn how to work in the back end, how to edit videos for my YouTube, how to make Instagram look beautiful. I had to learn an awful lot of things. And that helped my brain beyond recognition. I very, very rarely stumble. I mean, I actually stumbled with my phone number this morning. I thought, oh no, what's my phone number? Because I rarely write it down or ring myself.
Yeah, well, who does?
Learning anything new at any age really helps your brain. And plenty of sleep. You need lots of sleep.
Can I ask you, Suzi, did you go on a course to learn all those things, or did you just sort of do the YouTube tutorials, but where you're being told by a 12-year-old in Kansas how to, whenever you Google anything, it's always like a 12-year-old spotty boy somewhere in Midtown America telling you how to sort of reprogram stuff. Did you go on an actual course in a physical room with people?
Well, it was a lot easier for me than most my age, because I'd worked in radio and television all my life.
Yeah.
So I know how to shoot. I've also been a photographer, amateur photographer, sometimes a bit professional, but I also have always loved photography. So that's a natural one for me. I've written all my life as a journalist and as an author. So writing, and because I trained in radio, I know how to get straight to the point and not waffle. Because who's got time to read a long blog full of words? Nobody. So, but what I did do was, I'm very lucky. My best friend is, one of my best male friends is a genius working at Apple. So he came up and showed me the basics for editing iMovies, and if I get stuck, I do YouTube, and I find it so easy now. 3 years ago, I absolutely hated it. I used to hire people, spotty 15-year-olds to edit my videos, but I now love it. I add music, I do everything that anyone half my age or quarter of my age can do. But I was very lucky to have him. I also did a course with Make Light. I don't know if you know them, an online course. I absolutely love that group. It's all about making your Instagram as beautiful as possible.
Yeah.
And although I've always taken decent photos of scenes or people, and the iPhone as it is now is just so superb. You can't fail if you take about 30 and edit. But I was hopeless at taking shots of food, especially for blogs. I would literally stick a jar of coconut oil on the kitchen counter and take it. And thanks to their course, I actually learned how to think out of the box.
To sort of style it a bit more.
Yeah. And how to make beautiful flat lays and all that stuff. So I love the learning process. And I obviously had to have somebody who still helps me to this day, because I can't do absolutely everything.
Yeah.
She's in charge. I call her head of pretty, and she designs my website where the blog is. and she's constantly updating it and making it look prettier and putting all the new stuff up and sharing it on Twitter. And she taught me the rudiments of how to get in the back end and how to do it quickly.
So Louise and I talk a lot about this, how just in these last 5, 6, 7 years, this whole sort of thing has taken off where you can have a social media account. Before you know it, you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And with no media training, obviously you do, and that's why I'm thinking that you probably haven't fallen down any pit holes. But there's a lot of drama that goes on with influencers, and I think to myself sometimes, God, sometimes people create things and then it's this monster that gets out of control. How have you found like that influencer community? And do you find it being like cliquey or bitchy, or do you just not have any time for any of that shit?
I don't actually. I'm very, very, very lucky, I think. I'm just trying to think. No, no, not at all bitchy, actually. I think I only had one nasty comment on the BBC interview that was on their social media recently. One out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. And he said, oh my God, she's 70, she looks more like 90. And I thought, well, he's obviously 10.
And I bet he's an oil painting as well, Suzi. I bet he's absolutely stunning, to be commenting.
Exactly. But I don't comment. I don't take it personally. I ignore. And the same with Instagram. Instagram featured me as an oldie about 4 years ago. That helped my profile. And again, there was only one. And that was a girl saying, God, you're old. So I couldn't resist it. I've learned better since then. But I actually wrote back and said, yes, I may be old, but will you be as fit and healthy as me when you get to my age, if you're lucky enough? So, yeah, that's 2 examples. The majority are absolutely lovely. People will disagree with me, which is fine. My community, they'll say, well, I can't wear red lipstick, or I couldn't wear what you're wearing, but that's about as far as it goes. They're incredibly generous, lovely people, and I feel like they're my tribe.
I think in your 30s, there's a real element of like trying to keep up and comparing yourself to other people, and that goes, I think, in your sort of mid-40s. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree 100%. I mean, you mentioned my earlier age. I was very wild in my 20s and 30s. Smoked like a chimney, drank too much, and constantly worried about, oh, am I too old for television? And constantly worrying about my wrinkles and worrying about what other people thought of me. Yes, I totally agree. I think with me, my major change came 50 plus, because I realized I was becoming invisible. You do reach I hated middle age. I have to say, I prefer being old. Sorry to put you off.
No, it's a sheep dip we've got to go through. We've just got to go through that.
And it's not off-putting. It's actually, and I think one of the reasons I really enjoy following you is because I was 50 last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But there has really been an element of that. I know what you mean when you say it's just not. There's something great about it, but there's lots of things that aren't great about it, and I need somebody that is like inspiring. I don't want to follow younger people because they just make me feel even shitter about myself. Do you know what I mean? So I quite like that. I was saying earlier about what it is I find appealing about you, but I also, because it's great to hear that you didn't enjoy being in your 50s necessarily, and it just got better.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, and I'll let you into a secret. I ran away from my 50th birthday. I hated the idea of being middle-aged, which sort of they tag you as that. I hated it so much, I ran away. I went to a retreat in Thailand and wouldn't tell anybody it was my 50th birthday till a very dear friend sent a fax in those days saying, happy birthday, welcome to your 50th. Absolutely loathe the term middle age, and it is, you're not young and you're not old. It's this horrible in-betweeny stage. So my big advice would be to do what I did. I was writing books at the time, so I thought, well, why am I staying in London? I can write anywhere. I'm going to move to the seaside. So I moved to Brighton, dyed my hair bright red because that's totally acceptable in this city. and noticed that everyone around me of my age and older were wearing gorgeous clothes. The black uniform had disappeared. The high fashion look had disappeared. People love vintage down here. They love charity shops. So I started, because I wasn't in TV anymore, very rarely, I started dressing more flamboyantly, and dyeing my hair ridiculous colours and finding my own style, which definitely evolved over the next decade. And I reckon by the time I got to my blogging age, it developed even more, because I had to produce nice photos of nice outfits to inspire everyone to dress up and make the best they could of themselves in their own skin. So yes, use the 50s to experiment and not turn into, I'm going to wear the black uniform for the rest of my life because I'm older and all that rubbish.
Clothes are so interesting, aren't they? The psychology behind them, because you can use them as a hiding place, can't you? Just having a great big pair of leggings and a great big baggy top. And I think when especially a lot of people after they've had kids, they kind of do that. And it really does sort of, it shows that you are at the top of your priority list when you've just given a minute's thought to what you're going to wear.
Yes, and it only takes a minute. And if it's going to take longer than a minute, then sort it out the night before.
Yeah.
I often do that if I've got a casting or something important. I'm going to sound like Gok One now. I'm not that bad. But I do actually try on a couple of outfits and go, right, that's the one that will make me feel confident and look happy. But, this is what I'm loving about Instagram and the people I follow on Instagram. There are, it's changing. It's people are feeling body beautiful in whatever skin they are. Style Me Sunday is a great example.
Yeah.
She's had kids and she shows her flabby belly with pride. Sarah, who's a great friend of mine, Sarah Jane Adams in Australia, has a hashtag My Wrinkles and My Stripes. She's well into her 60s. There are a whole host of people out there not joining in this ridiculous, I must be thin, I must be white, I must be healthy, I must be this, I must be that. There's a whole section of Instagrammers who are really banging the drum for let's support diversity in every shape, colour we can. And that's where the brands are changing. I'm working with more and more brands because they're doing it too. They're realising that it's time.
You're doing the Lord's work there, Suzi.
I'm trying my best. Now we need to get rid of the labels, please.
Yes, yeah. I think people feel comfortable putting people into boxes, don't they? But especially for editorial stuff, I think that's all that is. But it's all bollocks, and we know that as consumers, people who are listening to the radio or watching the TV, we know that. I think again, it's spoon feeding the audience, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And you touched on my bugbear, despite having worked in TV and radio. Print drives me mad, and I've been approached by the local paper via my agent to do an interview, and I said, you read the riot act to her. If I'm described as a pensioner or an Instagram or elderly, I will go berserk. And they've promised it will be a positive piece, because that's what we need to spread. Stop talking about middle age, old age, young, too young to know. Stop it with it.
And the great thing about your platform, you can actually if anybody were to incur your wrath by printing, by describing you in print as a pensioner, you can say, like, I specifically told them not to do this. Why is it that they continue to do this? We can. I think we do have the people power, don't we, to be able to sort of turn things around. I've seen that recently with the Caroline Flack thing that's happened. Doctor surgeries are banning those shitty gossipy magazines. We don't want it anymore.
Are they?
Yeah,
that is such good news,
isn't it? Yeah, because and we do have the power. We keep just it's that thing of sort of like lapping it up. And I speak to a lot of people who are sort of saying, I'm coming off Facebook, I'm coming off Instagram because it's toxic. And I'm like, no. If your Instagram feed is toxic, then that is that's your fault. You need to go and curate and maybe unfollow some there is so much good stuff, like you say, out there that you could be curating your feed so you feel great every day.
Absolutely correct. It makes me happy looking at my feed, not unhappy.
Yeah.
It makes me feel that I'm actually doing a worthwhile job. It's now a job.
Yeah,
so much for retirement. But it's useful. I'm actually doing something useful, I see it as. But I'm so thrilled to hear about the newspapers and magazines, because that's exactly what my favourite radio programme was saying the other day, because of Caroline Flack. Stop looking online, stop clicking on it, stop buying them. If you do that, if everybody does that, they will go bust.
There's been some pictures recently of women of 50, age 50, like Jennifer Lopez at the 2020 Super Bowl, who look amazing, but that looks unrealistic to me. And she does have lots and lots of money, obviously, but that's not, you're not portraying that unrealistic goal, and presumably you're not spending a fortune on any of this, are you?
No, not at all. It's a very, very important question to answer. I'm very aware that many of my followers don't have a decent pension, can't afford the lifestyle I appear to live. However, I have to say that I don't buy jewelry. I'm not into designer handbags. I'm not into designer clothes. So I work very hard at doing the best I can to dress up. In fact, most of my posts will have a charity shop headscarf on, or I've hunted out vintage frames from a really cheap store that happens to, I found one in Mallorca of all places, amazing vintage frames that cost about £15.
Yeah.
So I think my main message is you don't need money to be healthy, to look the very best you can. You just need time to shop around and go to charity shops and go to vintage stores and go to markets and just try things, experiment with a look that costs you practically nothing. You don't have to go this ridiculous designer route that so many under 50 seem to go nowadays.
I find that look quite try hard anyway. That really, really, really groomed, like you've had a team of stylists around you all day, and that snatched kind of, sort of Botox. I love your natural style, Suzi.
Thank you. And it doesn't cost much. And I actually unfollow people who have those kinds of feeds because I'm bored witless. Oh, here's another shop trouser suit with me pouting in it. I mean, even if they're in the over 50 group, if I don't like their style, I'm out of there because it would be totally unauthentic to like it and comment. I mean, why would you do that?
Yeah, you're right. Can I just check also, Suzi, do you ever do a pout? I've never seen you do a pout. You don't pout, do you?
Interesting you should say that. Watch my Instagram very closely over the next couple of days because I'm really anti the pout. But interestingly, I was at a shoot on Monday and they were rushing me to start filming, and I thought, I hadn't done a selfie with my beautiful, I was so thrilled with my lipstick. She'd mixed this amazing mixture of reds, and I said, can I have some gloss on? And she went, yes, make it look great. So it was really poppy, but because they were grabbing me in a hurry, I think it's the one and only shot of me pouting.
I can't wait for that.
So you must have a look, because I actually say you won't usually see me with this sulky pose on, but it's very relevant by sheer coincidence to what's coming up early next week. It's very funny. So no, I'm not into pouting at all. What a ridiculous thing to do. Nobody walks around doing that in real life.
I know.
But I do stick my chin out because of the double chin. I have been known to do the Posh Spice pose, which is chin down and out. Right. I will do that.
Yeah,
that's just making the best of things, isn't it?
Yes, we're all so vain, aren't we? And the other thing I must say is we've all got body dysmorphia. Every single one of us has got something they look at in a photo, or which I don't edit, obviously, but every single one of us looks in the mirror and goes, I don't like my thighs, or I don't like my chin, or, we've all got, at any age, we've got body dysmorphia. So come on, girls, let's just embrace it and be grateful that we're alive and happy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So can we just finish up with a question that we ask everybody over the age of 40 on the podcast at the end, and that is, what is great about this time of your life?
Oh, you youngsters, you. Actually envisaged that I'd be calling people over 40 youngsters, but of course you are to me. I think what's great about my life now is that I've reached this great age of 70. It's not young, but I'm fit and I'm healthy. So I'm really grateful for that. Most importantly, I'm alive. My brain works beautifully. Yes, I get a little tireder than normal, but that's natural. And I think the greatest thing is that I know who I am. I'm very, very authentic on social media. So I think that helps. I think being true to myself, being honest and loving and caring and happy is sharing the message that, hey, it's not that bad, folks. You know, I've got through to this decade and I'm going to make the most of my life. And so stay with me on the journey, because it ain't that bad.
It's a fabulous journey, Suzi. Thank you so much for talking to us today. You are utterly fabulous and an absolute inspiration. And I know our listeners will be wanting to devour your content on Instagram and YouTube. All the links for where to find Suzi will be in the show notes, but basically she's known as Alternative Aging everywhere, and you will not regret following her.
Thanks so much, Suzi. That was brilliant.
You're so kind and lovely. Thank you so much.
Made by darkhorsedigital.co.uk. Shooting, live streaming and podcast production.
Hello, this is Rich Wilson, host of the podcast Insane in the Membrane, where we talk to funny and interesting people about men's mental health. People like James Acaster.
Because we won't talk about emotions because we think that's bad. We won't talk about feelings because that's bad. So they've had to rebrand it and go, it's mental health. Go,
Mental.
Our brains are saying, I'm pretty clever. Okay, I'll get into my mental. I like puzzles.
And Rob Beckett.
I've never even done a school play. I did some open mic gigs. Did the Edinburgh Fringe, somehow got on the telly, and I'm in the other side of the world in the jungle doing nights, following Ant and Dec.
People like Mark Steele.
I hated being at home, and I didn't get on with my mum. My dad was in an asylum by then. I suppose we ought to talk about that, shouldn't we? Given the premise of the podcast.
Search Insane in the Membrane from wherever you get your podcasts. Brand new episodes every